Bali with Andaka thus taken care of, Prahlad's son Virochana became the king of the demons. He ruled his kingdom well. There was a sage named Sanata Kumara who once went to visit Virochana. Virochana was delighted to see the sage, and Sanata Kumara instructed Virochana on the true nature of the universe. These teachings so impressed Virochana that he no longer had any desire to be a king. He went off to meditate, after having crowned his son, Bali, as the king of the demons. Bali was a good and righteous king. He ruled well and observed religious rites faithfully. But he defeated Indra and the other gods and won over heaven from them. Indra and the other gods started to pray to Vishnu for deliverance. The mother of all the gods was Aditi, and she was despondent at seeing her children suffer thus. She too started to pray to Vishnu. Stirred by these prayers, Vishnu appeared before Aditi. "What boon do you desire?" he asked. "Please grant me the boon that you will be born as my son," replied Aditi. "And as my son, you will take care of Bali." Vishnu granted the boon and was born as Aditi's son. As Aditi's son, Vishnu studied the Vedas under the sage Bharadvaja. Meanwhile, Bali arranged a yajna and Vishnu came to attend the ceremony in the form of a dwarf, Vaman. In more usual accounts, such as the Bhagavata Purana, Vishnu was born as a dwarf. Bali was not going to refuse anything to anyone on the occasion of the sacrifice. As soon as he saw the dwarf, he worshipped him and said, "I am fortunate that you have come to attend my ceremony. Please tell me what I can do for you. Grant me as much of land as can be covered in 3 of my footsteps," replied the dwarf. This boon Bali granted. The dwarf immediately assumed a gigantic form. With 1 footstep, Vishnu covered the entire earth. With a second, he covered the sky. And with the 3rd and final footstep, he covered heaven. The entire universe is inside an egg, Anda, and outside the egg there is water. Vishnu's foot cracked the shell of the egg and some of the water that was outside poured in. This water began to flow through the sky and became the heavenly Ganga. The story of the heavenly Ganga, identified as the Milky Way, descending to earth is a separate story. The story of Ganga being born from Vishnu's body is given in the Brahmavaivarta Purana. Having traversed all the land that was available, Vishnu resumed his form of a dwarf. "You have now donated to me all the 3 worlds," he told Bali. "Where will you stay?" "I seek refuge with you," was Bali's answer. Vishnu then instructed Bali to go and live in the underworld. As for heaven, it was restored to Indra. This is the story of Vishnu's dwarf, Vaman, incarnation. One Bali had 100 sons, the eldest among whom was one. One was devoted to Shiva. He was also extremely powerful. He defeated Indra and conquered the 3 worlds. Indra and the other gods went to Shiva. "Your devotee, one is oppressing us," they told Shiva. "Please take care of him." Shiva took up a single arrow and with this, he completely burned up one's city. This is deviation from the usual account of the Puranas, such as the Vishnu Purana or the Bhagavata Purana. In those accounts, Krishna fought with one and defeated him, although Shiva fought on one's side. It was because of Krishna's blessings that one became Shiva's companion. One's capital was named Shonitapura. When one's city was being burned up, one emerged and started to pray to Shiva's ling, image of Shiva. Pleased at one's prayers, Shiva made one a Ganpati. Thus, one came to be Shiva's constant companion. The solar dynasty, the sun god, Vivaswan, was the son of Kashyapa and Aditi. He had 4 wives, Samjana, Rajni, Prabha and Chaya. Samjana's son was Vivaswata Manu. Rajni's children were Yam, Yamuna and Revanta. Savarni, Shani, Tapti and Vishti were Chaya's children, and Prabha's son was Prabhata. The names do not tally across the Puranas. For example, in the Markandeya Purana, the son had only 2 wives, Samjana and Chaya. Yam and Yamuna were also the children of Samjana. Vivaswata Manu had 9 sons. Their names were Ikshvaku, Nabhaga, Arishta, Karusha and Parishadra. Manu also had a daughter named Ila, from whom the lunar dynasty originated. Ikshvaku's son was Vikukshi, and this was the line of Kakutstha. In this line was born Rama, of Ramayana fame. The names of several kings of the solar dynasty are given. But these we will not reproduce, as they are merely a catalogue of names. The lunar dynasty Buddha was the son of the moon god Chandra. Buddha married Ila and they had a son named Pururava. Pururava married the Apsara Urvashi and they had 6 sons. One of these sons was Ayu, and amongst Ayu's descendants was a king named Yayati. Yayati had 2 wives. The first was Devyani, daughter of Shukracharya, the preceptor of the demons. The second wife was named Sharmishtha, and she was the daughter of Vrishpava, the king of the Danvas. Yayati and Devyani had 2 sons, Yadu and Tursavu. Yayati and Sharmishtha had 3 sons, Druhaye, Anu and Puru. When it became time for Yayati to retire to the forest, he gave Puru the bulk of the kingdom, and Puru's descendants came to be known as the Pauravas. Yadu was given some land towards the southwest, and his descendants were the Yadvas. Turvasu ruled to the southeast, Druhaye to the west, and Anu to the north. One of Yadu's descendants was the king Kritavirya, and Kritavirya's son became famous as Kartavirya Arjuna. He had 1,000 arms and was the most skilled of fighters. He eventually met his death at the hands of Parshuram. Kartavirya Arjuna had several hundred sons, but the 5 most important ones were Shura, Shurasena, Krishna, Drishna and Jayadvaja. Jayadvaja was devoted to Vishnu, but his brothers were more inclined towards the worship of Shiva. The 4 brothers told Jayadvaja, "Stop worshipping Vishnu. Our father was a devotee of Shiva's, and it is our duty to follow the example set by our father. Let us worship Shiva." "It is my duty to worship Vishnu," replied Jayadvaja. "Vishnu is the Lord of everything. He is the preserver. How can I do otherwise?" The brothers debated about the virtues of worshipping Shiva vis-a-vis Vishnu, but could arrive at no consensus. They therefore decided to seek the advice of the 7 great sages, Saptarshi, chief amongst whom was Vasistha. Vasistha told the brothers, "One worships the god that one chooses. There are no rules in this regard. All gods yield the desired fruit, if properly worshipped. To the extent that there are rules, there are as follows. Kings worship Vishnu and Indra, Brahmanas worship Agni, Aditya, Brahma and Shiva, the gods worship Vishnu, the demons worship Shiva, the Yakshas and Gandharvas worship Chandra, the sages worship Brahma and Shiva, and women worship Parvati. But for humans, the best way is to realize that Shiva is no different from Vishnu, and that Shiva and Vishnu should therefore be worshipped simultaneously." The Kurma Purana also gives the names of several kings belonging to the lunar dynasty. But these we will gloss over, as they are merely only a catalogue of names. Dojal and Urvashi. There used to be a king named Dojal. He was learned in the Shastras and a good king. His wife was a beautiful and good woman. One day, King Dojai went to the banks of the river Kalindi. There he met the Apsara Urvashi and fell in love with her. He married Urvashi and lived with her for many years. After several years had passed, Dojai remembered his kingdom and wife. He told Urvashi, "Please let me return to my home now." "Not yet, king," replied Urvashi. "Please stay with me for one more year. I will return as soon as I have visited my kingdom," said Dojai. "I promise you that I will not tarry there. Therefore, let me return. I will let you go on condition that you do not live as the husband of any other woman," replied Urvashi. Dojai agreed to this condition and returned home. But because of the word that he had given Urvashi, he stayed away from his wife and did not venture near her. His wife tried to find out what the matter was, but Dojai would not reply. Finally, the queen got to know what Dojai had done and realized that her husband had committed a sin. He should not have married Urvashi while his wife was still alive. The queen therefore told Dojai, "You have sinned. You must perform penance. That is the sort of action that befits a king, not this despondency that you have become addicted to." King Dojai went and met the sage Kamban to ascertain what sort of penance should be performed for the sin that he had committed. Kamban advised him to go to the Himalayas and meditate. While Dojai was going to the Himalayas, he met a Gandharv king. The Gandharv king wore a divine garland. Dojai remembered Urvashi. He thought that the garland was a fitting adornment for no one but Urvashi. He began to fight with the Gandharv over the possession of the garland. Dojai managed to defeat the Gandharv king and obtain the garland. He immediately hastened to banks of the river Kalindi, because he thought that he might find Urvashi there. But Urvashi was not to be found, and Dojai roamed the world in search of her. Finally, Dojai arrived in the region of Mount Sumeru. The lake Mansa is located there. And by the shores of the lake, Dojai found Urvashi. He gave the Apsara the garland and lived happily with her for some time. After a few days had passed, Urvashi asked Dojai, "King, please tell me what transpired when you went home." Dojai thereupon told Urvashi about the conversation that he had with his wife and about what the sage Kamban had asked him to do. Urvashi was alarmed when she heard the king's account. "What have you done?" she exclaimed. "Hasten back, otherwise Kamban and your wife will curse the two of us." But Dojai was so smitten with love for Urvashi that he refused to listen to Urvashi's entreaties. Urvashi therefore made herself very ugly. This repelled Dojai, and he gave Urvashi up. For 12 years Dojai performed difficult tapasya, living only on fruits and roots. For another 12 years, he lived only on air. After having thus meditated for 24 years, Dojai went to Kamban's hermitage and told the sage all that he had done. "I am pleased that you have realized the folly of your ways and have performed tapasya," said Kamban. "But that alone is not enough. Your sin has been too severe. Go to the city of Varanasi and live there. Shiva is ever present in that city and he will pardon all your sins." Dojai did this and was pardoned all his sins. Such are the benefits of praying to Shiva, and such are the virtues of the wonderful city of Varanasi. Krishna's tapasya. Krishna was the 8th incarnation of Vishnu and he was born as the son of Devaki and Vasudeva. Initially, Krishna did not have any sons. Desirous of obtaining a son, Krishna went to visit the sage Upamanyu. The sage's hermitage was beautiful. Wondrous were the trees and flowers and grew there. The constant chanting of the Vedas could be heard. Wild animals lost their ferocity as soon as they entered the hermitage. Lotus flowers bloomed in the ponds. Sages came from all over the country to meditate in the hermitage. The sacred river Ganga flowed past the hermitage. Krishna greeted the sages and they worshipped him in return. Upamanyu welcomed Krishna with various offerings and said, "Our meditation has been amply rewarded by your visit. The great Vishnu has himself come to grace us by your presence. But is there any particular reason as to why you have come to the hermitage?" "I wish to meet Shiva," replied Krishna. "How does one get to meet him?" "Shiva appears if a devotee performs difficult tapasya," said Upamanyu. "It helps if the meditation is accompanied by great faith." Hearing these words, Krishna began a difficult religious rite known as Pashupat Vrata. He donned clothes made out of the barks of trees, smeared ashes on his body and continuously chanted Shiva's name. After many years had passed, Shiva and Parvati appeared before Krishna. "Krishna, why are you performing tapasya?" asked Shiva. "You are the great Vishnu himself. Any object that you desire is immediately attained. Why are you then engaged in this task of meditation?" "I wish to have a son who is just like you," said Krishna. "Please let him also be devoted to you." Shiva gladly granted the boon and the son who was born was Shamba, alternatively, Samba. He was the son of Krishna and Jambavati. Stories about Shamba are to be found in the Vishnu Purana, and also in Mahabharata. The Yugas, eras. You probably remember that there are 4 yugas or eras: Satya Yuga or Krita Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga and Kali Yuga. Lumaharshana next told the sages about the characteristics of these 4 eras. Kali Yuga is the worst of the 4 eras. People are sinful and forget the dharma of the 4 varnas and the 4 ashramas. In fact, men are so sinful that no prescribed penance atones for their sins. The only place which is free from such sins is the sacred city of Varanasi. In Satya Yuga, the best course to be pursued is meditation. In Treta Yuga it is the pursuit of knowledge, jnana. In Dwapara Yuga it is the performance of yajnas, and in Kali Yuga it is the donation of alms. Brahma is the primary god in Satya Yuga, Surya in Treta Yuga, Vishnu in Dwapara Yuga and Shiva in Kali Yuga. Envy and jealousy were unknown in Satya Yuga and everyone was happy. There was no superiors and inferiors and all individuals were equally healthy and equally handsome. There were no fixed places for people to live in, no cities and no villages. Men lived in the mountains and on the shores of the oceans. In Satya Yuga, water was always freely available. This was no longer the case in Treta Yuga. Water only became available when it rained. Rain was unknown earlier. And as it rained, trees began to grow. People lived on these trees. The fruit from these trees provided the sustenance required to make a living. But gradually, anger and jealousy came to be known and many of the wonderful trees disappeared as mankind picked up evil's ways. However, enough trees were left to ensure that people did not die of starvation. They lived on honey gathered from the trees. Although men looked on Satya Yuga with nostalgia, ill health and disease continued to be unknown even in Treta Yuga. But towards the end of Treta Yuga, people became really sinful. All the trees disappeared. To make a living, mankind had to resort to agriculture and animal husbandry. The weather became inclement and seasons like summer, monsoon and winter led to hardship. Notions of property were also introduced. Individuals appropriated mountains, rivers, land, trees and herbs as their own. To instill righteousness in the minds of people, The principles of Varna-ashrama were set out towards the end of Treta Yuga. In Dwapara Yuga, hatred, anger and jealousy became much more common. Fighting started. It was then that Vedavyasa spread amongst ordinary people the knowledge that was in the Vedas, by dividing them. Drought, death and disease came to be known in Dwapara Yuga. In Kali Yuga, fraudulence is the norm. There are severe droughts and famines. Revolutions take place. People are liars and sinners. They are easily angered. They do not respect the Brahmanas. The Brahmanas, on their part, forget all about the Vedas and Yajnas. Shudras become kings and oppress the Brahmanas. Some Shudras shave off their heads and wear saffron clothes. They pretend to be religious teachers. And horror of horrors, people start to believe in these fraudulent teachers. Women wear hairpins in their hair. As if this alone were not enough, they refuse to obey their husbands. Thieves are everywhere. The only redeeming feature of Kali Yuga is the fact that even if one worships Shiva just a little bit in Kali Yuga, one attains undying punya, store of merit. Lingas. A ling is an image of Shiva. There are several wonderful lingas in the wonderful city of Varanasi. There is a gigantic ling named Omkara. Amongst other famous lingas located in the city are Kritivseshwara, Madhyadeshwara, Vishveshwara and Kapdiswara. The Kurma Purana recites the glories of these lingas. It also enumerates the various tirthas, places of pilgrimage, that are to be found in the city of Varanasi. It goes on to list the virtues of the Ganga, the Yamuna and the city of Prayaga, modern Allahabad. Geography and astronomy. It is hoped that you have not forgotten that Swayambhuva Manu had a son named Priyavrata. Priyavrata had 10 sons. Their names were Agnidhra, Agnivayu, Vapumshmana, Dyutimana, Medha, Meltithi, Bhavya, Savana, Putra and Jyotishmana. Medha, Agnivayu and Putra had no desire to rule. They were not interested in material pursuits and became hermits. Priyavrata divided the earth amongst the remaining 7 sons. Thus it was that the earth came to be divided into 7 regions or dvipas. The names of these regions are Jambudvipa, Plakshadvipa, Shalmalidvipa, Kushadvipa, Kraunchdvipa, Shakadvipa and Pushkardvipa. Agnidhra ruled over Jambudvipa, Meltithi over Plakshadvipa, Vapumshmana over Shalmalidvipa, Jyotishmana over Kushadvipa, Dyutimana over Kraunchadvipa, Bhavya over Shakadvipa and Savan over Pushkardvipa. Agnidhra, the ruler of Jambudvipa, had 9 sons. Their names were Navikimpurusha, Hari, Elavrita, Ramaya, Hiranyavana, Kuru, Bhadrashva and Ketumala. Agnidhra divided Jambudvipa into 9 regions, Varshas, and gave each of his sons a region to rule over. A king named Bharata was one of Navi's descendants. After the name of Bharata, the region that Navi ruled over has come to be known as Bharatavarsha. There are 14 regions, lokas, in the universe. 7 of them form the upper regions. Their names are Bhuloka, Bhuvaloka, Swaloka, Mahaloka, Janaloka, Tapoloka and Satyalok. Bhuloka is the earth and its limits extend up to the points that can be lit up the rays of the sun and the moon. Take the distance from Bhuloka to the solar circle. An equal distance beyond the solar circle constitutes Bhuvaloka. The region from the limits of Bhuvaloka to the region of Dhruva, the pole star, is Swaloka or Swarga, heaven. Above the solar circle is the lunar circle and above that come, successively, the regions of the stars, Nakshatras, Buddha, Mercury, Shukra, Venus, Mangala, Mars, Brihaspati, Jupiter, the Saptarshis, the constellation Ursa Majoris or the Great Bear, and Dhruva. Shani, Saturn, Brihaspati and Mandla move slowly. The Sun, the Moon, Buddha and Shukra move relatively fast. The Sun's chariot is drawn by 7 horses named Gayatri, Vrihati, Ushnika, Jati, Panki, Anushtupa and Trishtupa. In each month, the Sun adopts a specific form known as an Aditya. There are thus 12 Adityas: Datta, Aryama, Mitra, Varuna, Shakru, Vivaswan, Pusha, Pajanya, Amshu, Bhaga, Twashta and Vishnu. Mahaloka is above the world of Dhruva, Dhruvaloka. It is reserved for those who have been freed from the bonds of the world. Janaloka is still further away. Brahma's sons live there. Tapaloka is beyond Janaloka and Satyalok is beyond Tapaloka. Another word for Satyalok is Brahmaloka, since Brahma lives there. Vishnu lives there as well. The Kurma Purana does not mention the 7 lokas that constitute the lower regions of the universe. This is the underworld, Patala. There are 7 seas that surround the 7 dvipas on earth. The names of the seas are Kshara, Ikshu, Sura, Bhirita, Dai, Kshira and Swadu. The names of the 7 oceans often differ from Purana to Purana. Right in the center of Jambudvipa is Mount Sumeru. To its south lie the mountains Himavana, Hemkutha and Nishada, and to its north the mountains Nila, Shweta and Shringi. Bharatavarsha is to the south of Mount Sumeru. Brahma's assembly is located on the peak of Mount Sumeru. Manvantaras. You already know what a Manvantara is. The titles of the 7 great sages, Saptarshi, the names of the gods and the title of Indra change from the Manvantara to another. In the present Kalpa cycle, 6 Manvantaras have passed. The first Manu was Swayambhuva. The second Manu was Swarokisha. The gods then were the Pavatas and Tushitas and the title of Indra was held by Vipushchita. The 7 great sages were Ujya, Stamba, Prana, Damboli, Vrishbha, Timira and Avarivna. Uttama was the third Manu. The gods of this Manvantara were the Sudmas, Stayas, Shivas, Pratadanas and Vashavatis and the name of the Indra was Sushanti. Raja, Gotra, Uruddhavahu, Savana, Anga, Sutapa and Shukra were the 7 great sages. The fourth Manu was Thamasa. The gods of this era were the Survas, Haris, Satyas and Sudhas and the title of Indra was held by Shibi. The 7 great sages were Jyotirdhama, Prithu, Kavya, Chakra, Agni, Varuna and Pivra. In the 5th Manvantara, the Manu was Ravta and the title of Indra was held by Vibhu. The gods were the Bhutas and the Vakuntas and the 7 great sages were Hiranyaroma, Vedashri, Uruddhavahu, Vedavahu, Suvahu and Supajanya. The name of the 7th great sage is missing. The Manus Swarokisha, Uttama, Thamasa and Ravta were all descended from Swayambhuva Manu. The 6th Manu was Chakshusha and the Indra then was Manojva. The gods were known as the Adyas, Prasutas, Bhavyasa, Prithukas and Lekhas. Sumedha, Vrija, Havishmana, Uttama, Madhu, Abhimana and Sahishnu were the 7 great sages. The 7th Manvantara is the one that is now current and the Indra now is Purundara. The Manu is Shradadeva. The gods are the Adityas, the Vasis, the Rudras and the Maruts. The names of the 7 great sages are Vashishta, Kashyapa, Atri, Jamdagni, Gautama, Vishwamitra and Bharadvaja. In the present Kalpa, there will be 7 more Manvantaras in the future. Thereafter, the world will be destroyed. It should be mentioned that the names given in this section do not necessarily tally with the names given in the other Puranas. Not only do the names of the gods, the sages and the Indras differ, the names of the future Manvantaras also sometimes differ from Purana to Purana. Veda Vyasa. In every Dwapara Yuga, a Veda Vyasa is born so as to divide the Vedas and disseminate their knowledge. In the present era, there have been 28 Dwapara Yugas and there have therefore been 28 individuals who have held the title of Veda Vyasa. The Kurma Purana gives their names as follows. 1. Swayambhuva Manu. 2. Prajapati. 3. Ushana. 4. Brihaspati. 5. Savita. 6. Mrityu. 7. Indra. 8. Vashishta. 9. Saraswata. 10. Hridma. 11. Rishabha. 12. Suteja. 13. Dharm. 14. Sachakshu. 15. Trairuni. 16. Dhananjaya. 17. Kritanjaya. 18. Ritanjaya. 19. Bharadvaja. 20. Gautama. 21. Vachashrava. 22. Narayana. 23. Trinvindu. 24. Valmiki. 25. Kshatri. 26. Parashara. 27. Jatukarn. 28. Krishnadvapayana. Krishnadvapayana Veda Vyasa divided the Vedas into 4 parts and taught them to 4 of his disciples. He taught Pela the Rig Veda, Vashampalna the Yajur Veda, Gemini the Sama Veda and Suman to the Atharva Veda. As for the Puranas, they were taught to Lomaharshana. Shiva's incarnations. Most Puranas only mention Vishnu's incarnations, Avatras. The Kurma Purana is one of the great ones which mentions Shiva's incarnations. In each Kali Yuga, Shiva has had an incarnation. The names of these incarnations are as follows. 1. Shweta. 2. Sutara. 3. Madana. 4. Suhotra. 5. Kankana. 6. Lokakshi. 7. Jalgishavya. 8. Dadhiva. 9. Rishabha. 10. Brigu. 11. Ugra. 12. Atri. 13. Bali. 14. Gautama. 15. Vedashirsha. 16. Gokarna. 17. Shikhandaka. 18. Jatmali. 19. Athasa. 20. Daruka. 21. Langali. 22. Mahavama. 23. Muni. 24. Shuli. 25. Pindamunishvara. 26. Sahishnu. 27. Somasharma. 28. Nakulishvara. The Ishvara Gita. While Lomaharshana was reciting the Kurma Purana to the assembled sages, Krishnadvapayana Veda Vyasa arrived on the scene. Lomaharshana and the other sages requested Veda Vyasa to instruct them about the path to true knowledge. This is what Veda Vyasa told them. The Paramatman, the divine soul, is the only truth. It is ever pure and ever present. It is from the Paramatman that the universe is created, and it is into the Paramatman that the universe merges at the time of its destruction. The Paramatman is not the earth. It is not water, energy, wine or sky. It cannot be touched, nor can it be sensed. The Paramatman is always present in the Jivatman, human soul. Any sense of distinction between the Paramatman and the Jivatman is due to illusions and the presence of the ego. The truly learned rise above such illusions. Therefore, a wise person does not see any distinction between his own self and other objects. The same Paramatman pervades everything. Just as all rivers unite with the ocean, a learned person realizes that all individuals Jivatmans unite with the Paramatman. Yoga, literally, union, is a technique of meditation that helps to bring about this sense of identity between the Jivatman and the Paramatman. Yoga has 8 components. The first is pranayam. This means the control of one's breath. The breath of life is known as prana and ayam means control. There are 3 parts to any pranayam exercise. When the breath is being exhaled, that is known as Richka, and the process of inhalation is known as Purka. When the breath is neither being inhaled nor exhaled, that is Kumbhaka. The second component of yoga is Pratyahara. This connotes the control of one's senses. Yoga must always be performed in a proper posture, and this is the third component of asana. The fourth component is called yam. This means the practice of non-violence, truthfulness and pity. The fifth component is known as nirma. This encompasses worship, studying the Vedas, cleanliness and meditation. Yoga has a sixth component named dhyana. In this process, one conjures up an image of the Paramatman and meditates continuously on it. The process of fixing this image in one's heart is the seventh component, dharana. And the final component, samadhi, is a situation where the individual realizes the complete identity between the Jivatman and the Paramatman. Rituals. The sacred thread, upavita, ceremony is very important and must always be performed at 8 years of age. Brahma had created the cotton tree so that sacred threads might be made out of cotton. But on occasion it is permissible to make sacred threads out of grass. A guru, teacher, is always to be respected and worshipped. In principle, a guru is anyone from whom knowledge might be gained. But apart from usual teachers, a father-in-law, a grandfather and an individual belonging to a superior varna are also recognized as gurus. A mother, a grandmother, a guru's wife, an aunt, a mother-in-law and the wife of an elder brother are recognized as being equivalent to a guru. One must never show a guru disrespect or argued with. A person who hates his guru is certain to go to hell. Amongst gurus or those who are equivalent to gurus, the most important are a father, a mother, a teacher, an elder brother and a husband. These have to be respectfully served at all costs. A brahmana must always wash his mouth after eating, drinking, sleeping, bathing, spitting or changing clothes. The mouth must also be washed before sitting down to study. It is also recommended that the mouth be washed after talking to those who do not believe in the Vedas, Shudras, outcasts and women. If a mouthwash is not possible, one can cleanse oneself by touching a piece of clothing is touched inadvertently. The act of purification requires the touching of water, wet grass or the earth. One of the most sacred mantras, incantations, that one can chant is the Gayatri. Before chanting, 32 cells must be drawn, as shown, and the letters of the mantra must be written down in the cells, as indicated. To recite the Gayatri, one now reads the letters as they occur in the numbered cells. That is, one starts with cell number 1, moves to cell number 2 and so on and so forth. 5, 13, 21, 29, 28, 20, 12, 4 WR Syapra Se Janawa 2, 6 Re 14 G 22 Cho 30 Sa 27 Ra 19 Yo 11 Di 3 6 7 15 23 31 26 18 10 2 Ni Ma Dawa Ro Yo Argoza 8 16 24 32 25 17 9 1 Yam Hai Yakdam Padhi Bata. A person who kills a Brahmana, drinks wine, or steals gold from a Brahmana, has to perform penance by killing himself. A person who kills a Brahmana may also build a hut in the forest and live there for a period of 12 years. But throughout the period, he has to bear a mark signifying the dead Brahmana's head on his palm. He is also not permitted to visit another Brahmana or a temple as long as the penance is going on. It needs to be mentioned that the sin of killing a Brahmana can be thus pardoned only if the killing was done inadvertently. If the killing was conscious, no penance will suffice. Under such circumstances, the sinner had best immolate himself in a fire, drown himself, or fast to death. For other sins, the observance of a religious rite, vrata, is often indicated. The major vratas are as follows. I. Santapna. This involves living for one whole day on cow's urine, cow dung, cow's milk, curds made from cow's milk and clarified butter made from cow's milk. The next day is a day of fasting. 2. Mahasantapna. This is a more severe version of the earlier vrata. In the case of Santapna vrata, 5 items were listed as permissible food. Mahasantapna vrata lasts for a period of 6 days, and on each of these days, only one of the 5 items mentioned may be partaken of. The 7th day is day of fasting. 3. Prajapya or Kricha. If this vrata is to be observed, one can eat only during the day. For the first 3 days, one is only permitted to eat 26 handfuls of food, each handful being as large as a hen's egg. For the next 3 days, 22 handfuls are permitted, but only in the evenings. And for the final 3 days, 24 handfuls are permitted. 4. Ati Kricha. This is a more severe version of the earlier vrata. For the first 3 days, a single handful of food is permitted during the day. For the next 3 days, 1 handful is permitted in the evenings. 1 handfuls of food, each handful being as large as a hen's egg. For the next 3 days, 22 handfuls are permitted, but only in the evenings. And for the final 3 days, 3-4 handfuls are permitted. Perka. 12 continuous days of fasting are required for this. 6. Tapta Kricha. This vrata lasts for a period of 12 days, during which time one is permitted to bathe only once a day. For the first 3 days one drinks only water, for the next 3 days one lives on milk, one has to live on clarified butter for the ensuing 3 days are days of fasting. 7. Krichati Kricha. If one is to observe this vrata, one has to live only on milk for the space of 21 days. 8. Pakricha. This vrata lasts for 4 days. For the first day one eats only one meal, the second day is a day of fasting, on the third day one can eat as much as one wants, and on the fourth and final day, one fasts. 9. Chandrayana. This vrata lasts for an entire month and begins on the day of the full moon, Purnima. On the first day, 15 handfuls are to be eaten. Thereafter, 1 handful less is eaten on successive days, until on the day of new moon, Amvasya, one fasts completely. On each day that follows, the amount of food eaten is increased by 1 handful. Finally, on the day of the next full moon, 15 handfuls of food are eaten and the vrata is completed. As mentioned earlier, those who kill Brahmanas, steal their gold, or drink wine, are sinners. Also sinners are those who associate with these aforementioned sinners for more than 1 year. Those who associate with outcasts for more than a year are also sinners. A Brahmana who drinks wine should drink boiling wine as a penance. It is also permitted to drink cow's urine as atonement. A person who steals gold from Brahmanas will go to the king and confess his guilt. His penance will be completed when the king beats him to death with a club. The only exception is a case where the thief himself happens to be a Brahmana. He can then perform penance by meditating. It is always a king's duty to punish sinners. If the king fails in this task, the sins vest with the king. A person who associates with sinners has to observe Taptakricha Vratha for 1 year. A man who takes on outcast for a wife has to observe Taptakricha or Santapna. A Brahmana who kills a Kshatriya is required to observe Prajapya, Santapna or Taptakricha for 1 year. In case the victim is a Vashya, Krichati Kricha or Chandrayana are indicated. If a Shudra is killed, 500 cows have to be donated. If an elephant is killed, Taptakricha Vratha has to be observed. Chandrayana will suffice if a cow is killed inadvertently. But if a cow is consciously killed, there is no penance that is adequate. For minor thefts, the stolen goods have to be returned to the rightful owner and Santapna observed. But if a Brahmana steals food grains, he has to observe Prajapya for an entire year. A cannibal can purity himself through Chandrayana Vratha. A person who eats the meat of a crow, dog or elephant, has to observe Taptakricha. Santapna is for those who happen to eat mongooses, owls or cats. An eater of camels or donkeys observes Taptakricha. A Brahmana who becomes an atheist can cleanse himself through Prajapya. If he revolts against the gods or against his guru, the act of purification involves Taptakricha. A Brahmana who recites the Puranas to outcasts has to observe Chandrayana. There are several other forms of penance that are catalogued by the Kurma Purana. The Sita who was an illusion. It is certain that you know the story of the Ramayana and you therefore also know that Ravana, the king of Lanka, abducted Sita, Rama's wife. But you certainly do not know the story of the Sita who was an illusion, Maya Sita. This story clearly illustrates that no harm can come to a person who is righteous. Ravana disguised himself as a hermit and came to abduct Sita. But Sita got to know of Ravana's plan and was determined to foil it. She therefore began to pray to Agni, the god of fire. Thus stirred by Sita's prayers, Agni appeared and produced a Sita who was really an illusion. This Maya Sita he left in the real Sita's place. As for the real Sita, she was absorbed into the fire. Without realizing the substitutions, Ravana abducted the illusory Sita and the entire war was fought over a Sita who was not even real. When Rama triumphed over Ravana and recovered Sita, a test by fire, Agni Pariksha, was held. In the process, the Sita who was an illusion was returned to the fire and the real Sita emerged once again. Thus the real Sita was never tainted by Ravana's touch. The story of the Sita who was an illusion is also given in the Brahmavaivarta Purana. Shiva and Brahma. Many years ago, Brahma lost his head slightly. He began to imagine that he was superior to Shiva and Vishnu. He told all the sages, "I am the supreme Godhead. There is no one else but me." While Brahma was thus instructing the sages, Vishnu arrived and was enraged at Brahma's behavior. "You are indeed ignorant," he told Brahma. "I am the supreme Godhead. You are only the creator. But I am, after all, the preserver." While Vishnu and Brahma were thus arguing, the four Vedas adopted animate forms and appeared before them. Each of the Vedas tried to persuade Brahma and Vishnu that Shiva was superior to both of them. Vishnu was persuaded by this reasoning, but Brahma was not. He told the Vedas, "You must be joking. How can Shiva be superior to the two of us? He is always wandering around with ghosts and demons for companions. While all this was going on, who should arrive but Shiva? Brahma promptly proceeded to insult Shiva. Shiva then created a being named Kalvaiva from his own body, and Kalvaiva started to fight with Brahma. In those days, Brahma used to have 5 heads. In course of the fighting, Kalvaiva chopped off one of Brahma's heads. Ever since that day, Brahma has had 4 heads and 4 faces. In many other Puranas, there is no mention of Kalvaiva. Shiva performed the chopping of himself. Brahma died as soon as his head had been cut off. Shiva did manage to revive him. But the mere fact that Shiva had killed Brahma meant that Shiva and committed the sin of killing Brahma, a Brahmana. As a result of this sin, Brahma's severed head got stuck to Kalvaiva's palm and would not be dislodged. In accounts where Shiva was himself responsible for the killing, the severed head adhered to Shiva's palm. Kalvaiva roamed around the world and the head accompanied him on his travels. For 1,000 years of the gods, Kalvaiva continued to travel. Eventually, Vishnu advised Kalvaiva to go to the sacred city of Varanasi. As soon as Kalvaiva arrived at the city of Varanasi, the head, Kapala, got dislodged. Mochna. A tirtha is a place of pilgrimage. The exact spot where this wonderful happening took place is accordingly known as Kapalmochana Tirtha. There are many other tirthas that the Kurma Purana describes. Among these are Prayaga, Kurukshetra, Gaya and Madhuvana, Mathura. The glories of the river Narmada are also described. The waters of the river Saraswati purify a sinner after 3 days of bathing, while the waters of the river Yamuna takes an entire week. The mere touch of a drop of water from the river Ganga purifies a sinner. But as for the river Narmada, the sight of the waters alone is enough. Nandi. There used to be a sage named Shilada. He was righteous and learned in the Shastras. To obtain a son, Shilada began to pray to Shiva. The tapasya went on for 1,000 years and Shiva appeared before Shilada. I am pleased with your meditation, said Shiva. What boon do you desire? Please grant me the boon that I may obtain a son who will not be born from a mother, replied Shilada, and my son should be immortal. Shiva granted the desired boon. When Shilada was ploughing the land, a handsome boy suddenly appeared on the top of his plough. The 4 directions shone with the boy's radiance and the boy began to address Shilada as Father. The son studied the Shastras and became learned. He was given the name of Nandi. Nandi wished to see Shiva and he also wished to become immortal. He therefore went to the shores of the ocean and started to pray to Shiva. He chanted the required mantra 1 crore times. When Shiva appeared and wished to grant a boon, Nandi said, Please grant me enough of life so that I can chant the mantra 1 crore times more. Shiva appeared once again, and Nandi desired the same boon. When this had happened 3 times, Shiva said, Enough is enough. There is no need for any more chanting of incantations. I make you immortal. I also make you a Ganpati, Lord over the Ganas. You will be my constant companion. The place where Nandi chanted the incantation has become famous as Japeshwara Tirtha. The Maruts had a daughter named Suyasha. Shiva himself arranged that Nandi should be married to Suyasha. Epilogue. Vishnu completed his recital of the Kurma Purana and the sages saluted him. They sung his praise. The Kurma Purana is most sacred. A person who reads it attains Brahmaloka. A person who reads only 1 chapter of the text is forgiven all his sins. Undying punya is attained by an individual who donates this Purana to Brahmanas in the months of Vaishakha or Kartika. Particularly sacred is the part that is known as the Brahmi Sanhita. But the text should never be read or recited in the presence of Shudras. A person who ignores this injunction will surely go to hell. There is also a similar injunction about reciting the text to those who are disbelievers, that is, those who do not believe in the Vedas. A person who violates this injunction will be born as a dog in his next life. If you enjoyed this audiobook, please like and subscribe to be notified of when new audiobooks are uploaded. Thank you for listening and learning. Shanti.